Today we're checking out the worst looking cars from every decade of Formula One. Look, the 1950s cars, they were gorgeous. Spoked wheels, hand-beaten aluminium bodies, stunning looking engines. Every one was a true thoroughbred work of art. Okay, works of art that would kill you at the first available opportunity, but damn, those cars look good. Honestly, there isn't an ugly one here, except for one glaring exception. In a very strange manipulation of the car entry rules, the 1959 US Grand Prix organisers encouraged Roger Ward to enter a Curtis Craft Offenhauser dirt track midget in an attempt to drum up some local interest. This short, ugly, ill-proportioned little car truly had a face for radio, only made worse by the sleekness of the competition. And it not only looked out of place, but it was woefully lacking performance compared to the F1 machinery, qualifying a near ice age off the leaders. 44 seconds off the pace, over just one lap. Ugly car, ugly results. Thankfully, it was never allowed back. Then, the 60s happened. Arguably, the F1 machines got even better looking in the 60s, and this was also when teams started to discover downforce. But unfortunately, they also realised that the car body would interfere with the wings. That was until some bright spark had the idea to give the wings fresh air by literally sticking massive upside-down aero wings on huge poles above the car. Enter the decade's most heinous piece of F1 machinery, the Lotus 49. It looked utterly ridiculous, like some school science project that got out of hand. Sure, it worked, the downforce was huge, but almost nothing else on the car had been designed to take those increased forces, and those poles holding the wings were comically flimsy, leading to parts failing in high-load corners and some monumental crashes. All the high-wing cars look bad, and you might think one of them looks even worse than the Lotus 49. But the reason I'm so jaded on this one is that the prior green livery version looked so damn good and is actually a contender for being one of the best looking F1 cars ever made, until they slapped those wings on. So the Lotus 49 and frankly all the high wing cars, they were painfully ugly, utterly lethal, but thankfully they got banned quickly. Ah, the 1970s, a decade of flares, disco and ground effect. This was an era where designers really started changing the shape of F1 cars in the name of speed. From cars with massive engine intakes to cars without a front wing. There was quite a few weird shapes on display in the 70s, but by far the weirdest and most hideous, the Aero's A2. This thing looks like it was designed by someone who'd never seen an F1 car and had the rules described over the phone. No front wings, sloping bodywork, mirrors like a bug antennae, and an awful livery. It was all in the name of maximising ground effect apparently, but the result was a car that didn't go fast, didn't handle well, and worst of all, it looked like it was a prop out of a cheap sci-fi flick. Now the 80s gave us some absolute icons, the McLaren MP44, the Williams FW11, turbo monsters that look like they meant business. And then there was the Toleman TG183. Just what the heck happened here? A fat front wing, two rear wings, awkward side profile, and a livery that looks like it was designed during a power cut. It was a chaotic mess from every angle. It was like someone tried to join together two F1 cars at once. The bizarre design apparently stems from trying to cram the radiators into the front wing, which not only made the car hideous, it also made it damn near uncontrollable at top speed. Sure, it was the car that first gave Ayrton Senna a taste of F1 machinery and had an incredible sounding, fire-breathing turbocharged engine. But no matter which way you cut it, the Toleman was never a looker. Things were changing fast in the 90s. Grunge, boy bands, Britpop, rave, girl power, whatever the heck this was. And F1 changed just as quickly. V12s to V10s, H-pattern to paddle shift, driver aids emerging then disappearing again. The teams took all of this in their stride, creating some of the sport's best looking and best sounding cars. Except, in 1996 Ferrari created this monstrosity, the F310. It was a knee-jerk reaction to new regulations requiring higher noses and higher cockpit sides. But whereas competitors had blended the changes seamlessly into their designs, the Ferrari looked like it was built using leftover parts from 3 different cars. The nose was awkwardly high, the side pods stuck well out to the side, and the huge cockpit sides looked like your nan's armchair. It did win races, eventually, thanks mostly to Schumacher dragging it kicking and screaming up the leaderboard. When it wasn't trying to kill him, that is. An Italian masterpiece, this was not. In the 2000s, teams discovered that if one wing is good, 50 must be better. There were vanes, flick-ups, notches, barge boards, chimneys. If it could be bolted on, it was. The F1 grid was like a moving warning of what will happen if you let an aero team loose with an unlimited budget, a badly written set of technical regulations, and zero good taste. Enter the appalling-looking, aero clutter on maximum Honda RA108. But the real showstopper here wasn't actually the aero. Oh no, it was the paint job. Honda decided to skip sponsors and instead make an eco-mentalist statement by plastering the car with a giant map of the planet. Now this might have sounded like a great idea in some corporate boardroom, but the reality didn't really match expectation.
That is one big pile of shit.
Stretching that Earth image over the angular body of an F1 car just resulted in one of the worst looking liveries ever to disgrace an F1 track. The Honda RA108, ugly and about as speedy as a freshly glued protester. Thanks to a terribly written piece of technical regs, the early 2010s was an era with more strange noses than a Michael Jackson photo album. And no car sums this up better than the Caterham CT05. Now, most F1 noses look sleek and fast, not this one. Well, it just looked like a giant
penis, the male reproductive organ.
The CT05 didn't just have a weird nose, it had a phallus. A long, thin, deeply unfortunate front extension that made the car look less like a racing machine and more like something you might see swinging beneath the legs of a donkey. And it ran about as well as a donkey. Yes, it was technically a clever loophole to meet the new nose height regulations, but yeah, it just reminds me of like when your mate's dog would get a bit too relaxed in front of the fire and you don't know where to look. Oh, no, I've got that mental image. The Caterham CT05, a back marker with all the elegance of an episode of Beavis and Butthead. The 2020s brought a brand new era to F1, or rather the return of an old one, ground effect. Aero was being reimagined from the ground up, quite literally, and teams were finally working from a clean slate. And what did Mercedes do with that fresh start? They showed up with the W13 and took themselves from the 21st century's most successful team to a midfield hazard overnight. F1 cars have evolved to look a certain way for a reason. There's a natural logic to all of their proportions and a reason that things are positioned in roughly the same places for every car. But the W13 ignored all of that by ditching the familiar side pods and shrink-wrapping what was left over. Bold, clever, ugly, and kinda disastrous. The car bounced like a trampoline, chewed through tyres, and nearly turned Lewis Hamilton into a broken man. The W13 was an ugly, bouncy driver breaker, but at least we got some Drive to Survive gold.
Change your f***ing car.
Then you change your car because Checo has been saying the car is f***ed. I have it printed out. You're in the and I'm gonna come after you.
So what do you think? Did I miss out on something even more ugly from some decade? Let me know down in the comments, and let me know what you think is the ugliest F1 car ever. Like, subscribe, and check out this video up here for more great motorsport content.